So when you're researching, make sure that you research widely and thoroughly. So don't make the mistake of just looking something up and just choosing the first couple of links that appear and not going beyond that. Just because it's at the top of the search results page doesn't mean that it is always going to be the most suitable for you. Also use a variety of sources. There's lots of different options out there, so look widely. If you don't have primary sources, it's going to be hard to do well. So primary sources can include law reviews, journal articles, law digests, all sorts of different things. Now, there's free legal databases that are available to you. That can help with question 10 that we just looked at. There's Queensland Judgments, the Federal Register of Legislation, Supreme Court Library of Queensland, and the Australasian Legal Information Institute. Also, using news articles is something that's really handy. So I recommend using them as a starting point for your research. So rather than trying to find a case study, which can be difficult navigating different databases and figuring out the different ins and outs of that, you can try to find a news article that talks about a case study and then find and read the case. That way you'll be able to put in the name of the case into the database or the year or the people involved, so you've got something to actually search for and narrow down the results that will appear. And so it's going to make it quicker and easier to find and understand the cases as well. The news articles will likely explain what the situation is and hopefully will do so in language that's easier to understand than the sort of legal language that they'll use in different cases. In terms of referencing, so when you've got a report like this, it's really important that you keep track of referencing. This report is all about research, so you're going to have quite a few sources. I recommend doing formal referencing once you finish the final copy of your assignment. So if we have a look at my system, so I keep a record by having a bit of a table with a code system. So you don't need to have all of the columns in this table. You could just have the code and the URL or the publisher. But if you assign a code, either a number or a letter to the source, then in your draft, you can be putting ref, which stands for reference, ref A, ref B, ref C, and that can then, you then know, okay, this particular information was from this source, and you go back to your table and find the URL for that. And then if you're doing research notes before you start writing your report as well, you can organize your information into tables. You can have the title of your notes and then add the notes and the reference where you found it. So instead of needing to put this big URL everywhere next to information, you can just put that code that you've chosen instead. You can see in the draft section here, I've got that ref B idea. And then in the final submission, I then have the proper referencing with the name of the organization and the year. So this is something that's useful to do with in the draft, just having the informal referencing, because for me, I needed to make lots of changes before I did my final submission, because I would always go over the word count. So there would be stuff that I would have to get rid of. And if I spent lots of time doing all the formal referencing for my draft, then I would be then getting rid of some of that work, because inevitably some of those references I would no longer need because I would be getting rid of information to reduce the word count. So that's why I would always wait till my final submission to do that formal referencing. When it comes to drafting, make sure you don't underestimate that. So try to have a complete draft that you can give to your teacher, because the more that you hand in that draft, the more feedback that you're going to get, and it's going to be easier to understand what you need to do to improve your work. I didn't discover the QCEE and all the resources on their website until very late on in the piece when it came to my external exams for Year 12. But I recommend, if you haven't already, go to the QCEE website, and not just for legal studies, but for all of your subjects. There are some handy documents there. So you'll have the syllabus for each subject. So it'll show you how you'll be assessed, what you're supposed to be taught, and the different glossaries and things like that, with showing you what different things mean. There are all the marking guides and rubrics and things. There are also exemplar reports on the website, so you can see the different examples of how an inquiry report would be done, and that kind of thing. And then there's also a sample assessment instrument. So that is the sort of task sheet that you would get for your assignment. And if you visit any of those QR codes, you can see that they will take you directly to those PDFs as well.